Imagine a world where the edge of civilization ends, and beyond that lies a wasteland where magic roams freely and the only rules are survival and desire. This is the journey of In the Lost Lands. Welcome to a realm of witches, hunters, and forsaken power. In the year 2025, filmmaker Paul W.S. Anderson brings us In the Lost Lands, a dark fantasy epic based on a short story by George R.R. Martin. A unique blend of post-apocalyptic wasteland and mythic fantasy, the film takes us into a territory where one queen's ambition upturns the fragile balance of her realm. In this video, we'll explore the film's story, key characters, themes, visual and production design, and finally we'll share a verdict. Does it land or get lost in the...
When In the Lost Lands hit theaters in March 2025, the reception was mixed. Globally, the film grossed around US $6.1 million against a reported $55 million budget. Critics pointed out issues: weak character development, a thin script, over-reliance on green screen, and visuals that, quote, plod through the setting rather than soar. On the other hand, some viewers appreciated its ambition, genre blend, and sheer spectacle. For you as a creator, this is an interesting angle. Despite pedigree, Martin's story, major names, the film underperformed. So you can ask, why didn't it connect? Is it the execution, the story's adaptation, or audience expectations? This gives you rich material for discussion with your viewers. The central pairing of Gray A-list plus boys creates chemistry between witch and hunter. The contrast is engaging. The visual world of lost civilization and wild magic is compelling and provides strong set pieces. The notion of a fantasy quest in a decaying world gives the film a distinctive flavor. It isn't castle plus dragon, but wasteland plus spell plus survival. What doesn't? The storyline feels compressed. Many character motivations and backstories are hinted at, but not fully explored. Some critics say tension never fully builds. The film struggles with tone. At times it wants mythic grandeur, at others pulp action. This mixture doesn't always land. Visual effects and production design at times remind you of limitations. Where you might expect immersive realism, you sometimes get flatness. For your viewers, you can highlight scenes you feel succeeded, for example, an action sequence or magic shot, and contrast with scenes you feel fell flat. This engages them in a dialogue rather than a monologue.
Under Anderson's direction, In the Lost Lands is ambitious. From sweeping landscape shots to tight, dark interiors, the aesthetic is one of decay and beauty. According to sources, the film runs about 101 minutes and was produced across Germany, Poland, Canada, and the US. The screenplay by Konstantin Werner, adapting Martin's short story, tries to give us mythic stakes in a compressed runtime. The world building is one of the film's stronger aspects. Imagine rusted machines, mist-shrouded landscapes, magic emanating like a virus in the wasteland, and the rare bursts of color when spells are cast or monsters awaken. Music by Paul Hasslinger supports the mood with haunting tones and pulsing rhythms. However, and this is important, some critics felt the VFX and production design were mid-price and lacked the polish of higher-budget fantasy epics. But I'd argue there are moments of genuine visual flair, and for a film of moderate budget, around USD 55 million, it tries hard to deliver scope.
What lies beneath the surface? At its core, In the Lost Lands explores power and its cost. A queen's desperation drives her to magical extremes. The sorceress is bound by her own code of commerce and magic. The hunter must choose between his brutal past and a new cause. The motif of The Lost Lands functions both as a place and a symbol. A frontier of morality, of lost human civilization, of wild magic unchecked. The film asks, when the old world falls, what becomes of the rules? Who thrives? Who survives? And who becomes the monster? There is also the theme of transformation. be it literal shape-shifting magic or the internal change in Grey A-list as she forms a bond with Boyce. Characters are forced to evolve or vanish. One can read it as a cautionary tale about ambition, hubris, and the price of desiring what nature forbids. If you like, there's a parallel between the wasteland outside and the cold political court inside. Both places where power is traded, alliance is tested, and survival comes.
Let's take a closer look at the major players. Grey Alice is introduced as a mercenary of magic, feared, respected, morally ambiguous. The film leans heavily on Milla Jovovich's presence, her physicality, her aura of dangerous elegance, the weight she gives to each spell gesture. Boyce, in contrast, is a man of muscle and instinct. Dave Batiusta brings the kind of rugged charisma that invites you to root for a man who's seen too much to believe in fairy tales, yet is dragged into one anyway. Then there's the Queen, whose ambition pushes everything into motion. Key supporting characters like the enforcer Ash and the courtier Jirais, who complicates the mission. What I found interesting, the film tries to give us both internal conflict, Grey's code, Boyce's past, and external conflict. Witch hunters, monsters, the wild itself. At times, these threads weave nicely. At others, the film struggles to balance depth with spectacle.
Despite its flaws, In the Lost Lands matters for several reasons. First, it shows what happens when high-concept fantasy meets mid-budget production. There are creative risks. Some succeed, some falter. Second, it draws from a renowned fantasy author, George R.R. Martin, and yet does not rely on the large-scale franchise machinery, offering a more contained experiment in fantasy. Third, as content creators, we can learn from its ambition. Attempt bold world-building, combine genres, post-apocalypse plus fantasy, and cast against type. Milla Jovich as Witch and Dave Bautista as Hunter. For your channel, this film gives you talking points about adaptation, story to screen, genre hybridization, visual execution under budget constraints, and audience expectation versus reality. So what's the verdict? In the Lost Lands is a film with a bold concept and intriguing elements, yet hampered by uneven execution and narrative thinness. If you show up for spectacle, wild magic, wasteland fantasy, and the sheer novelty of Witch plus Hunter in Apocalypse, you'll find moments to enjoy. If you're looking for full character arcs, deep emotional resonance, or flawless VFX, it might leave you wanting more. For viewers, I'd rate it as a worth a watch for genre fans, but not a must-see for everyone. It earns points for ambition and idea, but loses points for delivery. In your own words to your audience, give it a go with tempered expectations, appreciate what it tries to do, and judge how it lands for you. If you enjoyed this breakdown of In the Lost Lands, hit that like button, subscribe for more film essay content, and let me know in the comments, what did you make of the movie? Which scene stuck with you? And which fantasy film do you think pulled off the wasteland magic mix better? Thanks for watching. Until the